tonight's big stories. The government is implementing measures to cushion the impact of the impending El Nino, which is now forecasted to develop sooner than later this year. To conserve water, the NWRB is cutting water allocation from the Angat Dam for irrigation to ensure enough supply for the next cropping season. The Agriculture Department is also planning out ways to support areas most vulnerable to lower rainfall.
And after getting sweet commitments from the United States, the defense courtship continues, with the Philippines getting early gifts. America's version of flowers and chocolates, military vessels, and aircraft. But how soon can the AFP get its hands on these pasalubong?
And to those minors who like to vape or smoke, you might have to think about it now, as the PNP says it will be enforcing laws and ordinances against vaping and cigarette smoking, specifically focusing on underage students. We'll discuss that some more with PNP Public Information Office Chief Colonel Reseiko Maranan.
Welcome to the show. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Chicky Verhel.
And I'm Sean Yao.
And so it starts, girls. The El Nino alert is up, and soon after that, the Pag-asa raised that. The agriculture sector has responded with measures to mitigate its projected impact.
Right. This early, a water allocation for irrigation from Angat Dam is set to be suspended until the next cropping cycle starts by mid-June.
And the Agriculture Department is also taking measures to avoid cases of fish kill in aqua farms. Shaila Francisco with the big story.
By May 11, the National Water Resources Board will suspend the water allocation for irrigation from Angat Dam. The decision comes as farmers in Bulacan and Pampanga will need little to no supply as harvest season comes to an end. This is also in preparation for the next cropping season. Currently, allocation for irrigation until May 10 is at 10 cubic meters per second, lower than the 30 cubic meters in April.
Kailangan po nating mapangalagaan yung kasalukuyang supply. Sa kasalukuyan ay hindi na po nila kailangan sa kanilang pagtatanim. No? Yung tubig ay binabuti ho muna natin. Huwag muna i-release yan para po mapaghandaan yung sa mga susunod ho nilang pagtatanim po.
The NWRB will resume allocation by mid-June when planting starts. This will, however, depend on the level of Angat Dam, currently at 194.68 meters, well within the normal level. The agency explains that if water level decreased further, especially amid El Nino, domestic supply of consumers in Metro Manila will be prioritized. For its part, the Agriculture Department is focusing on agri-producing provinces seen to be hit the hardest by El Nino. 46 provinces in Cordillera, Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, as well as NCR, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol Region, and Western and Eastern Visayas may be vulnerable to lower rainfall. Among crops that may be affected include palay, corn, coconut, fruits, and vegetables. The DA is now eyeing measures like cloud seeding and providing pumps to mitigate losses. Back in 2019, losses for rice and corn alone due to El Nino amounted to 10.7 billion pesos.
Hindi pa namin masasabi yung kung anong scale ng magiging impact ng El Nino, no? But yung 2019, categorized siya as weak, no? Pero 7 months lang siya. We're hoping na hindi ganon magiging kalakas itong itong dadating kung na El Nino, but we are assuring na prepared ang DA.
For fish, small pelagic ones such as tuna and sardines may benefit from El Nino as they prefer warmer temperature. Still, authorities are monitoring incidents of fish kill, particularly in aquaculture fish such as tilapia and bangus. They are now advising operators not to overstock.
Yung mga land-based aquaculture magkakaroon ng pagbaba ng level ng tubig. So, mangangahulugan ito ng pagbaba rin ng dissolved oxygen at maaring manghulugan ng mga fish kill. Kapag nagkakaroon ng overstocking, mataas ang competition for dissolved oxygen.
Shaila Francisco, WR1 News.
I was reading a report a while ago from the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, and they say, that was in 2002, they say that a fragmented approach by agencies led to extensive losses. So meron na tayong mga, kumbaga, things to base off on
Yes.
how we dealt with El Nino in the past. So I think what's crucial now is for those agencies to come together and to have a comprehensive action plan.
And I think that's why they're raising the alarm as early as now kasi alam mo, favorite sabihin ng mga tao, yung pag-asa naman, walang sinabi. Lagi na,
Tama,
sabi nila,
tama.
oy, as early as now, sinasabi na namin sa inyo, right now, 80% chance and possibly tumaas pa yan in the next few days.
It's well, hindi nakakatawa actually. It's so sad kasi we're always scared of shortage of water, guys, Sean and Gretchen, no? And napaligiran tayo ng tubig, 'di ba? So much water around us. Archipelago nga tayo, mga kapatid, 'di ba? And not just that, but also palaging bumabagyo, flooding pa nga 'di ba? But so many people also without access to clean water. In fact, according to the National Water Resources Board, 11 million daw people don't have access to clean water. Walang panligo, walang panluto and all that. And yet, yun nga, the irony of it all.
I think a solution to that is to source the water not from the ground, but also but from
From the
surface
atmosphere.
water. Yes, but since we're also dealing with huge systems, agriculture, crop irrigation, kailangan talaga to hindi siya
Patsi-patsing solusyon.
hindi patsi-patsi, hindi lang LGU, kailangan talaga from now, we should be able to come
Whole
up
of
with
government
ways.
approach.
Comprehensive plan
Involve,
talaga.
like,
Oh.
And also to involve us as users of this water. I mean, I think we have to be prudent in our papaayos ko na
But
yung water
also,
meter
the
ko.
UN is saying that the El Nino phenomenon is not just in the Philippines, but it's warning the whole world of hotter temperatures to come.
All right, and still on the weather, let's check out some updates. The low pressure area and the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, are still bringing rains to some parts of the country. This afternoon, Pag-asa spotted the LPA in the vicinity of Tanjay City in Negros Oriental. Pag-asa says this LPA is embedded along the ITCZ, which is affecting southern Luzon, the Visayas, and Mindanao. Both the LPA and the ITCZ are bringing scattered rains and thunderstorms to Mimaropa, the Bicol region, Visayas, and Mindanao.
Circling back to one of our top stories yesterday, the May 17 airspace shutdown.
Ayan
Diba?
na naman.
Remember
Sabi,
this?
di ba, mag-uuwi si President Bongbong Marcos ng nuclear energy.
Oo.
Hopefully natin.
Yeah.
Not if the wiring is faulty in the terminal itself, which is looking to be the problem, which we'll find out in 3 months after the full energy audit of Meralco is done.
Gretch, aside from all these reminders, the reminder that you actually just said, si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na is going to bring home energy sources or plano for that. What else can we expect from this maintenance shutdown?
Well, the Civil Aviation Authority has already instructed airlines to prepare recovery flights and extend assistance to their passengers. CAAP said that if ever, only emergency and military flights will be allowed during that 6-hour period that's on May 17. The agency also insists that the preventive suspension against MIAA General Manager Cesar Chong will not affect the scheduled system maintenance. Now, once the repair of the uninterruptible power supply or UPS is done, CAAP expects the country's aviation sector to be in better position to handle unforeseen events. Aside from this, the MIAA is also asking for a 1 billion peso budget to purchase power generators for NAIA.
Kung matapos itong May 17, kumpleto na po yan at meron na tayo tinatawag na redundancy. Meaning, kung mag-fail yung isang equipment, meron pa tayong isa. Kaya we're hopeful na wala nang mangyayaring katulad ng January 1.
And here to talk to us about the impact of this impending maintenance shutdown to its operations, we have on the line AirAsia Philippines spokesperson Steve Dailisan. Steve, sinabi na ng PAL na they're trying to reschedule and jig around the flight schedules para naman na yung cancellation, yun na lang yung last resort. Ano po ang plano ng AirAsia tungkol dyan?
Good evening, Sean, and good evening, Chiki and Gretchen. For AirAsia Philippines, we've planned about this maintenance shutdown as early as April. This morning, we had a consultative meeting with the Transportation Undersecretary along with other stakeholders, and we've already requested for the retiming of our flights. So as early as May 16, we've already requested for our 21 flights to be retimed on the actual day of the repair happening from 12 midnight to 6 in the morning. We will be retiming 13 flights and canceling 6 more flights. So we will try as much as possible to mitigate the effects or the impact on our guests, because we want to inform them as early as possible. In fact, as soon as our flight rescheduling is approved by the slots committee, we will send out email notification and SMS to all our guests. We're also thankful for our media partners for helping us reach out to our guests. And all other information will be available in our social media pages.
Okay, sir, just to clarify, customers will not incur any additional costs, is that right? And can they refund their booking?
For this particular exercise, we are giving standard recovery options to all of our guests. So they have an option to either, one, move their flight to a later date, two, process it through a credit account, which they can use for their future flights, or they can also opt to refund. No, but insofar as minimizing the inconvenience, what we're trying to do is really inform them ahead of time so that they wouldn't have to go to the airport and wait for the retiming schedule. So as early as hopefully within the week, we'd be able to get more information from CAAP and from MIAA, from the slot committee, so that we'd be able to reschedule and publish our rescheduled flights as soon as possible. Now, this morning, we were told that the maintenance or the repair activities which will happen from 12 midnight would involve at least 3 hours for the repair of the UPS, and then an hour and a half for the rebooting of the system, and then there's also a buffer of another an hour and a half. No, so to make sure that for any unforeseen circumstances, we're all prepared. So that's what we've been preparing. I think the repair has been announced as early as April, so we've made early or prior arrangements for this one, and we believe this is also a positive development towards ensuring safer skies for everyone.
Very quickly lang po, actually very quick answer if possible, no? Yung reminders for Air Asia Philippines, passengers, para maging seamless po yung kanilang experience.
Yes, Sean. Well, we've been trying to communicate with our guests as early as I think last week. We've already issued an advisory. We would encourage all our Air Asia guests to check their SMS, their registered email addresses, because we are sending pre-flight notifications on the changes on their flight schedule. And if they still don't have access to it, they can check our social media pages. We will post the retimed schedule and the canceled flights on our social media pages so that they are all informed, and that we would be able to minimize the hassle during their flight schedule.
Isang beses lang po ba ito? And this is related to the January 1 happening, right? The outage in January 1. Isang beses lang ba?
Yes. This morning, may nagkaroon na ng repair interval. It happened from 2 a.m. until 4 a.m. In fact, around 3:27, they were able to finish the repair of the voltage regulator. But on May 17, for this one, medyo mahaba siya. So around 6 hours, that are Philippine airspace. It's not just within Manila, or if you're departing from Manila, so and you're flying to the different destinations in the Philippines, of course you're affected. But it will also affect airlines or airline companies who are overflying the Philippine airspace. So it will be a total closure for a period of 6 hours.
All right. Thank you for keeping us posted. AirAsia PH spokesperson Steve Dairisa.
Mukhang may pasalubong si PBBM para sa Armed Forces of the Philippines. The United States will be providing military vessels and aircraft to the armed forces. And I believe we are receiving about 7 of those vessels.
4 ships and 3 airplanes. But nothing like of an attacking nature. You know, it's mostly for patrolling
ships,
and for
Kanina,
cargo.
pinapanood ko yung News Explain, parang sinasabi doon, hindi naman bago yung mga barko. At
Hindi talaga.
pag kinompare mo siya sa Chinese Coast Guard ships,
Okay.
60%.
Maliit din
yung
siya.
pinakamalaki natin ay 60% lamang nung pinakamalaki nila. Hindi pa to kasama.
Yes, tsaka hindi talaga siya bago. Again, parang excess inventory ito ng US Air Force and I guess the US Navy.
Ayan, nakikita natin ngayon yung
Ayan.
graphics natin.
Yan yung mga makukuha natin, guys. Sana, ayan yung,
Ito yung mga barko.
hygiene class. Ang laki niya, yung nasa pinakataas, di ba?
And I was also told that when it comes to the Coast Guard, the size matters for the ships because they are used to harass, to intimidate. I mean, ano yan payabangan, paangat.
Parang nakita natin, di ba, yung near collision at sea. Parang nag-stop talaga yung heart ko kasi ang liit talaga ng boat natin. Parang 1/3 lang yata nung Chinese Coast Guard boat.
So
Compared
even
to
the
naval warfare. Right?
even the planes, yung C-130H or Hercules yun, di ba?
Yeah, C-130 Hercules.
They're also old.
They're also old,
Okay.
but again, we have a couple of these from the United States from before. I think the earlier incarnations of the C-130, this really comes in handy pag kailangan natin mag-evacuate, magpadala ng mga supplies. Like, super handy din naman siya for
Bilang
humanitarian.
nililigawan tayo ng US, magiging masaya naman tayo doon.
Depende sa standards
Love
mo.
language niya kasi gifts, okay?
May sentimental value daw kasi maluma. Meanwhile, earlier today, President Marcos once again met with U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. The center of discussion was still on defense cooperation between the U.S. and the Philippines. This was something Vice President Harris said will continue to grow under the Marcos administration.
How concerned are you with the continued provocation from China?
As concerned as you could possibly be.
And on the issue of security, of course, the work that our countries are doing together as it relates to the South China Sea, as it relates to what we must do in terms of continuing to work together through our Coast Guard.
Let's check in now with mobile journalist Julie Baiza to talk us through what the rest of President Marcos' schedule in America looks like. Julie.
Chiki, with the official 4-day U.S. visit of President Bongbong Marcos set to come to an end, the chief executive will still have a busy schedule ahead. Marcos is set to visit the Pentagon for a meeting with American defense officials. There, Marcos is expected to discuss the U.S.-Philippines defense guidelines. This will outline details on how the two countries will further work on priorities and interoperability, for example, through information sharing, defense capability development, among others. Chiki?
Thank you, Julie. Again, that was mobile journalist Julie Baiza reporting from Washington, D.C.
So in relation to all this talk about Navy ships and vessels, have any of you spotted the U.S. Navy ships docked over in the Manila Bay? Maybe the U.S. can help us have these types of ships to defend our waters. Let's bring in mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez for the details.
If you happen to pass by the Carino Grandstand here in Manila, this probably caught your eyes. What you see is a ship of the United States Navy. It's the USS Making Island, an amphibious assault ship of the U.S. fleet. The USS Making Island is second only to the U.S. aircraft carriers in terms of size. It also houses planes that you see on the left side and helicopters like these on the right side. But what sets it apart from the carriers is its complement of U.S. Marines ready to be deployed anywhere and anytime they are needed. Along with the USS Anchorage and the USS John P. Murtha, the USS Making Island comprises the Making Island Amphibious Readiness Group or ARG. Just like the US carriers, the Making Island also carries air assets, like the MV-22s for troop transport and the latest generation F-35B Lightning stealth fighter bombers. But you might be wondering, why is it here? It was April 28 Friday when the ship docked at the Port of Manila, coinciding with the end of the Philippine-US Balikatan exercise. The ship is here for replenishment and to give the crew some R&R. I guess we wouldn't be too surprised if more of these ships would dock in Manila Bay, as their presence is also a result of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement with the U.S., signifying stronger ties between the Philippines and the United States. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Thanks so much for that, Pam.
Up next, the PNP will intensify their campaign against the use and sale of vapes or e-cigarette products to minors. What can we expect from this campaign? We'll find out when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Guys, remember when the DILG called for courtesy resignations of PNP personnel for internal cleansing?
Yeah. Yes, that was a months back, I think earlier this year.
Well, after an around 4-month review of these courtesy resignations, the 5-man advisory group has recommended the dismissal and filing of administrative charges against 4 senior officials of the police force.
Senior.
This was confirmed to News 5 by former PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin, who heads the advisory group. The group recommends the acceptance of the 4 officials' courtesy resignations over alleged links to the drug trade. Azurin says the recommendation has been submitted to NAPOLCOM for verification of evidence. Current PNP Chief Benjamin Acorda meanwhile assures the public that policemen linked to the narcotics trade will be held accountable.
All those personnel who are involved in this fiasco will be properly charged at pipilitin natin na sila po ay matatanggal na sa serbisyo. Definitely may mga makakasuhan din sa mas bababang level.
Again, it was the Interior Department that called for these courtesy resignations back in January. Let's find out from Brian Castillo what the reaction of Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos was to the recommendation of the panel. Hi, Brian.
Sean, DILG Secretary Benhur Abalos, who is also chairman of NAPOLCOM, says that the findings of the 5-man advisory group will be released to the public in the next 2 to 3 days. He says that the details are now complete, but a review is still ongoing to ensure that there are no legal hurdles that will be encountered when the report is released. Sean?
Thank you for those updates, Brian Castillo. Okay, minors beware, or should we just say, stop, minors, stop.
Iyak na yung mga yan.
Bad habit to, di ba, Gretch?
Pag sinabing minor, 18,
below 18,
below
17 and
18.
below. If you're wondering what we're talking about and why we're talking about this, well, the PNP recently said that it will be enforcing laws and ordinances against vaping and cigarette smoking, specifically focusing on underage students. PNP Chief General Benjamin Acorda said they will be coordinating sale and distribution of vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products and new tobacco products. Along with this, Acorda says the PNP will boost police visibility in the vicinity of schools. Here, just to clarify, minors or students caught using e-cigarettes or vapes will not be detained or punished.
Ladies, today is World Press Freedom Day, Sean and Gretchen. So, mabuhay para sa mga katulad nating alagad ng media.
Yes, mabuhay.
Alagad. Alin.
Minsan alagad, minsan alipin.
Yeah, you can't have it just one way. In line with that, the United Nations is urging all countries to stop targeting the media and the truth. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned on the eve of World Press Freedom Day that the media is under attack in every corner of the world. Guterres cited a report that shows a 50% increase in the killing of media workers in 2022. At least 67 media workers worldwide were killed just last year. The jump in killings was driven largely by attacks in Ukraine, Mexico, and Haiti. Guterres says this figure is unbelievable, stressing that freedom of the press is the foundation of democracy and justice, and that it is under threat.
Kayo ba during, the modern times, so what kind of challenges do you face every day as broadcasters?
Na-cyberbully na ba kayo as broadcasters?
Yes. Once, and I've kept quiet since then. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about that during this commercial break. But up next, we'll be taking a look at some of the trending jobs in the Philippines. Don't go away, because you might just get an idea for your next side hustle. That and more when the big story returns.
You're still watching the big story here on One News. What else do we have tonight, girls?
Well, here's one from the business front. May iba naman tayo. Metro Pacific seeing a 38% jump in core earnings in the first quarter of this year. The conglomerate saw core net income hitting 4.3 billion pesos in the first 3 months of 2023, thanks to the strong performance of its power unit, Meralco. The company says this is on the back of higher power consumption of business establishments. And on the topic of their planned voluntary delisting from the PSE or the stock exchange, MPIC says it will be business as usual. Major shareholders are looking to take the company private through a 49 billion peso tender offer.
Labor Day was last Monday, but it's always interesting to talk about trending jobs. And right now, it's remote jobs that are a big hit for us Pinoys. According to Job Street Philippines, Filipino workers nowadays are putting a premium on work-life balance. Job Street says that more and more Filipinos are into working from home and other flexible work arrangements. Aside from being able to work anywhere, some remote employees also earn in foreign currency. Among the top trending remote jobs right now are virtual assistant, sales-related work, and digital marketing. Employers for these kinds of remote work are usually from the US, Australia, the UK, and China. But at the same time, Job Street has a reminder for those who want to try remote jobs.
Importante ngayon no na doon sa mga trusted websites ka pumunta at huwag na huwag kayo maglalabas ng inyong payment fees kasi hindi yan totoo. Hindi ka dapat magbayad para magkaroon ng trabaho. Pangalawa, yung private data o yung private datas mo, hindi mo dapat ibibigay, lalong-lalo na ang yung bank account number. So, yan yung mga senyales na ikaw ay pumapasok sa isang scam jobs or invitations.
Medyo mahirap mag-hire ngayon ng tao na willing lumabas, ha?
Oo, totoo. Alam mo, I think it's a combination of course, COVID, nasanay tayo sa bahay. So parang, dami pa lang pwedeng gawin sa Zoom.
True.
Sa Zoom, so Messenger chat, WhatsApp chat. And another thing, I used to hear these complaints about Gen Zs and millennials entering the workforce. They really do put a premium on their mental health, on what they want out of life. It is true. Agree na agree si Chicky. Mukhang may baon siyang kwento.
Not sure how that bodes for employers, but if you are an employee, that gives you a lot more options to choose from. But yun nga, reminder lang sa atin is to be safe and secure with the information that we put out there online. Huwag tayong magpaloko.
Yeah, just what Sean was saying kanina about yung mga Gen Z tsaka millennials, diba? Actually, particularly the Gen Zs, a lot of employers are like, ayaw namin mag-hire ng Gen Z or mga millennials.
Kasi masino.
Iba sila eh. Iba yung what tools are available to them. Baka hindi na gets ng mga boomers.
Yes.
I was actually reading a tweet a while ago which said na humingi siya ng 50 pieces of paper from the Gen Z. Alam mo ginawa ng Gen Z? Nag-print siya ng 50 pieces para hindi niya nabilangin isa-isa. Kaya pagkabigay niya,
sure siyang 50. But that's
smart,
warm.
right?
Smart.
Maparaan,
Diba? Ewan ko lang sa kuryente.
Pero again, yung mga offices kasi hindi rin pwede mawala ng tao or else makakalbo yung real estate sector na.
I guess find your spot in that, right?
There's room for everyone in this world, and that's it from us tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This has been The Big Story. Thank you and good night.